Supernatural? More like super gay. Super gay. You're gonna have to deal with a really loud fan. It's really warm in here, and there's nothing I can do about that. I don't think Destiel was a thing within the show, nor do I think that Sam was queer in the show. This is about how making certain characters gay would have enhanced moments in the show. I don't think that Supernatural queer-baited or is homophobic, at least within the context of only watching the show. But I do think that they created characters that are difficult to argue the sexuality of. Soulless Sam, Angel, and your true self. I think when it comes to discussions about queerness and Supernatural, it's really weird that Destiel or Dean being gay is the first thing that comes to mind. I think that Sam being bisexual would have created a much more interesting narrative plot and just a much more creative way to look at him being soulless. Now, true, being gay, making characters gay as a plot device really sucks. And this argument is going to be mostly it as a plot device, but this would have created a very interesting exploration. So, if you didn't know, Sarah Gamble was planning to make Sam bisexual when he lost his soul. This is an idea that she stole from me. I'm kidding. I was like 5 years old when they did it. But this is an idea that I've had before watching Supernatural. And it was an idea that I got watching Buffy. Or more correctly, Angel season 4. When Angel turns into his soulless self, he's so much more queer-coded than he is otherwise. And that made me think that it would be so cool for that to be a hint into whether or not Angel is angelous, the fact that he's attracted to both men and women. But inherently within Buffy, this doesn't work. This is because, one, vampires or any soulless things are meant to represent evil. They're representing legit stuff within a supernatural context. So then it implies that bisexuality is evil, especially because Angelus is insanely more evil than Angel is. So that wouldn't have worked without being homophobic, at least in one way or another. Even if they were to make Angel bisexual and Angelus, it would be weird, because then there's an implication that, like, in his core, he's straight in his, like, natural form, and that doesn't work either. So within Supernatural, this would have worked so much better. I love the idea of knowing a character isn't themselves when they are queer. And I think here they could have worked it out to be this character isn't themselves because they're not ashamed to be queer. Inevitably, in Supernatural, soulless people are still themselves, just not feeling anything. That includes shame. I think in the episode where they go through the town that Sam was in when he was soulless, but now he's not soulless, and, you know, every single person that gets murdered is somebody that had sexual relations with Sam, it would have been really cool if one of them was a guy, or several of them were guys. I also think it would have been really cool if previously, when Dean still wasn't sure that Sam was soulless, if Sam was attracted to guys and he was like, something is a little bit wrong. It would have then created a really good space to have Sam realize he's bisexual because he didn't feel any shame. And then later, when he does feel shame, realize that he's been closeted all this time because of that shame. I don't know. For me, I think this works really well. He's working on instinct, and that would have been really cool to see that one of Sam's instincts is to be bi. Not saying that everybody is bi, but that Sam is. And they wouldn't really have to continue that on for the rest of the show. They could say that Sam is bisexual regardless. They could have had like one episode where he is like, oh god, no, yeah, this is true. Or like one love interest that dies almost immediately. You know, that would have been a really interesting exploration. And I'm talking by CW rules. Without CW, they could have dragged that on to be so much more. I specifically don't think that there's any problem with having straight people play gay characters as long as it's well done, and I think that Jared Padalecki would be able to do that well. Destiel being boyfriends for 20 minutes. Having watched the show, I actually didn't get Destiel as a ship. I didn't think that they at all had any tension between them. And I was like, that's really weird. Like, I don't understand it. And then I found a video on YouTube called Destiel being boyfriends for 20 minutes. And I got it. There is so much queer subtext if you look really deeply and if you pay like, the first thing that comes up anytime you search Destiel is the scene where Cass appears and he's really close to Dean, and Dean is like, personal space gas. Because Jensen Ackles looks at Misha Collins' lips, and then it sort of creates the sense of, whoa, he wants to kiss those. And that video had that, and I'm like, okay, I understand. That's a moment of slight tension. But then it showed a lot more examples of queer subtext within Supernatural and in regards to Destiel, which made me realize Destiel isn't a thing, but Destiel being a thing would have enhanced their relationship so much more and enhanced the storyline in Supernatural so much more. Testing the fact that, you know, angels feel attraction to anyone because, well, they're junkless and they're not human, but Cass has a range that's fuller than everybody else because he's found true friendship and soulmateness. And that is what they do in Supernatural, but it would have been so much more enhanced if they were to be a couple. I think also so many moments where the subtext is there would have been enhanced by 100 if they were actually a couple. I think the thing is, you can't say that with what we already have, the Destiel is a couple. I think with what we already have, the moments would have been better if Destiel were to be a couple. They would have needed to say that they're a couple for these moments to work. And again, they wouldn't have needed to kiss if that's a big problem.
So now, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna cure you of your human weakness. Same way I cured my own. I loved you.
You didn't love me. You were obsessed with me. That isn't love.
I loved you.
Destiel. Jensen hates it. So Jensen Ackles seemed to deeply dislike the idea of Destiel. He's discussed it many times. And I understand. And I don't think it really has to do with being gay. I don't think Jensen Ackles is homophobic as much as I'll analyze my own perspective on this, but this is super unimportant and unrelated to the conversation. I think that capitalism is why Dean could not have been gay. You know, with television, you're trying to appeal to the mainstream, and being gay, especially in the early 2000s, it wasn't going to work, and I think the CW was really against it. And I think what Jensen Ackles was trying to do is to, one, not have the show be accused of queer baiting, because that really sucks, and then two, not trigger the CW network and cancel the show. I also think that he really, really didn't know how to talk about this, and he felt very frustrated, and I think that's a big reason to why he got upset every time that it was brought up. He just didn't want to talk about it because he didn't know how to bring it up or how to talk about it maturely. But again, this doesn't really matter. I'm just saying, let's get that out of the way. Every time there's discussion about gay ships, it's always insanely sexualized. Queer relationships aren't just about sex. They're the same as any other relationship. There is romantic attraction, aesthetic attraction. Not to mention, there are super complicated relationships where you could feel romantic attraction and still not be dating that person. I feel like Dean and Cass could have been an interesting example of that, considering Cass is an angel. And I think that Cass, when he was human, he was sexual, but I think as an angel, it could have totally been a thing that they're in love with each other, but they don't have sex. That does not at all need to be an integral part of relationships, as asexual people prove. obviously I know that asexual people can and do have sex. I'm just saying it's not integral to a relationship, and neither it is to gay ships. Gay ships are rarely, I think, about sex. Well, sometimes they are, obviously, but I think in a lot of it, they're about two characters that have really good chemistry to the extent where you're like, I could see them developing romantic feelings to each other. And I think this is what it is about. Community, more like the LGBTQ plus community.
Troy and Abed in the morning. Gay!
This brings up another really popular queer ship among friends. Among fans. Whoa! Historians will say that they were best friends, and so will I. No, I'm kidding. I think Troy and Abed are a very similar ship to Dean and Cass. I think that they also demonstrate a relationship that wouldn't necessarily be sexual as much as they are such soulmates that they could develop romantic feelings to each other. This super simulates an actual relationship, their friendship, and I think they're very open about this in Community. I think the one big discussion that comes up with Troy and Abed is there could be friendship between two guys that is just really close and it doesn't have to be gay. Okay? Sure, yeah, I agree, but this is television. I don't know. I think there would have been a lot of moments that would have been enhanced with Troy and Abed being together, but I think Troy and Abed, because of their dynamic and how excellent it is, could have been a really good opportunity to talk about romance as a like separate from sexual attraction. I feel like it really stinks to say it like that because, like, obviously gay people are also attracted to each other sexually, but I think this would have been a really good example to have them be actual boyfriends but just not sexually, because I think they already pretty much were, and having like a semi discussion about it would have created a really interesting discussion about sexuality in general. And I think telling stories through other stories is a big part of, you know, fan fiction and why it's good. Fan fiction can be terrible, but it can be really good. I think Destiel and the 20 minutes semi-video essay about them is basically creating a story from a story that already exists. And stories are wonderful. Why not create more? Next, one of the most superior non-canon gay ships, the Annies. Yeah, this is probably my favorite ship ever, probably because I'm a lesbian, but I think it's really weird for both of them to be called Annie, but Taylor Lautner is dating Taylor Lautner, so, I mean, they're married. That sounds like, yeah, whatever. I think this would have been really cool, their rivalry, blah, 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 not to mention Alison Brie is very gay, bisexual gay, clearly, and I think that they made that a super big, like a visible thing in the show, and I think it would have been really cool if they ended up dating. This isn't really anything, I'm just saying, I don't ship majority of the ships ever, but I do ship this one. Now, is there a point? No, bye. I mean, not bye. Victorious, more like bi-curious. Tori and Jade. Now let's talk about love triangles. Yeah, I really hate the fact that people, like, that in stories, love triangles are always two people of the opposite gender fighting over somebody of... Wait, frick. Two people of the same gender fighting over somebody of the opposite gender. And it's not a triangle, it's just two lines, and it's a problem because it always becomes sort of sexist in a way. Like two women fighting over one guy, and they're like, no, you're a B-word, I'm prettier than you. I think that happens a lot. And then when it's two guys fighting over a girl, she's mine, no, she's mine. We have to fight to see who has her. And it's like... It's not your decision. And it's always really weird. So, Tori and Jade are an example of how this would have been so much better if this wasn't about Beck and it was about both of them, or it was an actual triangle. Now, I don't super love Victorious, but I love Tori and Jade. So I do, yeah, sue me. I love Tori. I said it. I think that, yeah, it really, really sucks to have a love triangle that's not a triangle. I feel like this sort of reminds me of the freaking, whatever happened with Olivia Rodrigo and Sabrina Carpenter, about how everybody was like, one of them is in the wrong, and nobody was like paying attention to the guy. I really have no idea what the frick was going on there, but I think this is a good example. I'm avoiding cursing. I think that's funny. I think that's a really good example of what happens when a love triangle is not actually a triangle. I think breaking that love triangle thing by actually making it a triangle would be so freaking sick. And I think that Tori and Jade had a nice dynamic. At this point, I just didn't want this video to be just about guys shipping them together, and so I'm just bringing up girls randomly because I'm cool like that. On the topic of girls, Mean Girls, more like gay girls. No, but seriously, the musical is one of my favorite pieces of media ever. It's not my favorite at all by any means, but it makes my top 10 musicals. And it's so much better than the original movie or the musical movie, but the musical movie is really trash and a lot worse than the movie or the musical. It just does both of them so insanely dirty. I think I would have left it alone and not minded it if the other two weren't there, but I don't like it. Like, yeah, no. If the musical wasn't there, I would have been completely fine with it. If the movie wasn't there, no. They just needed to not have the music, because what the fudge was that? Because now I actually cared about it, and it was not good. It really did look dirty. Whatever. Regina and Janice, yes. I think that the Mean Girls musical movie, however, was a really good example of this fan fiction of the idea that like making a character queer would enhance the story, because in the original movie Janice wasn't a lesbian, she was Lebanese, and that was just the whole joke surrounding it. But I think that her being actually a lesbian in the Mean Girls movie musical was an enhancement to the storyline, and I think that inevitably both Regina and Janice liked each other like that in the movie musical, and I think that makes it such a more, I think, interesting story, or a deeper story. There is more depth to it, because suddenly we're talking about actual real world issues, and then their relationship is enhanced to so much more than just hate because of bullying. It's suddenly showing two stories of being queer in high school. There's coming out and being bullied, and there's staying so deep inside the closet that nobody could know. I think this is an example of the straight A's, straightforward, straight girl, Little Miss Perfect, that's me. You know? Stranger Things, more like gayer things. Byler. Okay, Byler is a really interesting ship, I think. It's also a ship that I didn't really super see having watched Stranger Things, probably because I'm blind to gay ships with guys. I think all of the ships that are guys, two guys, I was like, I don't see it. And lesbian ships, I'll immediately be like, yes, these two women, they're a little too close. I guess maybe that's where ships come from, just relating it to yourself, sort of. Whatever. Now, Byler is a really good example of a ship that enhances a story creatively by 100. And I think inevitably that's what good fan fiction is. It's somebody that really loves the story so much that they understand it so much to the extent where they can create something from it. An alternate universe. You know what I mean? Just making a different story from an existing story and improving on it or exploring different sides of it. Which brings me to Flickergate. Flickergate is an absolutely genius theory. that freaking ties everything in a circle perfectly, and just, it's just full circle, man. It's really cool. And I think that's inherently what all of these ships do. They allow you to create in your mind a story that maybe would have been better. Our imagination is so much stronger, and it's wonderful, and it's important, and if shows breed creativity, oh my god, run with it. I think it's beautiful, and Flickergate is awesome, and I think I need to explain what Flickergate is. Isn't that genius? That's what fanfiction is all about. Gay ships are not about making the whole industry gay. They're about enhancing a story. And also, there's nothing bad with making everything gay. But seriously, things that enhance a story creatively shouldn't be ignored because of political messagings. And things shouldn't be created purely for political messagings unless the story calls for it. I think this is also something that makes Abed's character in Community really good autistic representation. The fact that, they just do it without the purpose of representing anything, but because it works, if that makes sense. I think some of my favorite shows ever are Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Only Murders in the Building, and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And I think they have such excellent queer representations. And I think one of the reasons for that is because they allow themselves to be creative in any possible way and see dynamics between characters and just go for it, I don't know. Maybe I'm taking this too far. Or maybe this is just a theory. A film theory. No, yeah. I just wanted to say my feelings about this, and yeah, I don't ship Destiel, but I think the show would have been maybe more interesting in some moments if Destiel were to be a thing.